Hello, my name is Billy York, and I'm a Cloud and Data Center Management MVP. You can follow me on Twitter at SC Automation, and my blog is cloudsma.com. Today, I'm going to show you a brand new workbook that I've just created. This workbook is an Azure Inventory workbook. Some of you may remember I showed you how to create part of this workbook last year in my Azure Advent Calendar video. This is the completed version that I finally finished. As always, my workbooks have parameters. At the top level, we have subscriptions. This will find any subscription that you have access to, and yes, this will work with Azure Lighthouse. So if you're an Azure CSP or MSP and you wanted an inventory of all the clients you have access to, this workbook would be a great solution for you. First, in our Overview tab, we have a count of all resources. Now, one thing to note is that anything in Azure is considered a resource. So if you have a VM and that VM has multiple disks and multiple NICs and even multiple public IP addresses on it, each one of those is going to be considered an Azure resource. So with that said, there are some decisions that I've had to make in this Azure Monitor workbook that limits what's pulled in and what's classified as what type of resource, and I'll talk about that as I go along a little bit. So below that, we have a count of our subscriptions and the amount of resource groups under each subscription. And then we have an overview count of all of our resource types. And again, what I've done is say there are multiple types of app services. Under this view, I've combined them all into one. Under the PaaS tab for app services, I've broken them out to function apps, API apps, certificates, that kind of thing. Similarly, I've done the same with network resources. Under the networking tab, they are all broken out into the different types of networking resources, but here they're all under one. Under the Compute tab, we have our status of our VMs and the count of VMs by size. I don't keep Azure VMs around in my subscription, so I don't have anything to show you here. But what I will show you is down here, we have another set of tabs where networking is going to show you the private IP address as well as the public IP address of your VMs. And similarly with storage, it's going to show you a breakdown by VMs with the OS type, the OS disk size, the SKU type of the disk, and then a count, summary count of all of your data disks on your VMs. And then really importantly, we have orphaned disks and orphaned NICs. You do get charged for these resources, and so it's a good idea to go in and clean them up. So I've included the queries here in this workbook to go out and find any orphaned disks and NICs for you to go find and delete. Under hybrid compute, we have our ARC machines, and this pulls in the last status, last seen, the fully qualified domain name, what OS type it is, and then I've actually translated the server version to a more readable version like Server 2019 or Server 2016. Under the PaaS tab, I've put a number of resources from automation accounts and logic apps to app services to eventing, SQL and Cosmos DB are under data, and then storage and backup. There's a common theme across the entire workbook, which is I give you a count of the resources by type at the top, and then I give you a detailed view below that. So for automation, we have our runbooks, logic app API connectors, automation accounts, and then logic apps themselves. And then in the detailed view, it breaks it out by subscription and then shows you the runbooks, the automation accounts, logic apps, and then it gives you different types, like if it's a PowerShell script, regular script, is it published, is it disabled, all of that information. And then under view details, I've pulled in the full return of all the fields from Azure Resource Graph. And as you can see from app services, it's exactly the same as automation, but as I said in overview tab, I've broken them out from Azure functions, app config stores, app certificates, app services, app service plans, and so on. And then again, we have the detailed view down beneath that. And then under networking, we have them broken out by their type. And then below that, we have any unassociated NSGs. And then we have our NSG rules. I don't have a lot of NSG rules, but this works for showing, what it's got in it. This query pulls in a number of fields from NSGs and tells you the name, the priority, the source address prefix, destination address prefix, anything like that. And under monitoring and security, we have our application insights and our log analytics workspaces. You may notice that I don't have Sentinel or Azure Security Center. This was another thing that I had to make decisions on because at present there is no Azure Sentinel provider that I'm aware of in Azure Resource Graph. If you are aware of one, please reach out and let me know because I couldn't find one. What I did find is that it's considered a solution on top of log analytics, and so underneath the breakdowns here that we have of the workspaces and then our Azure Monitor workbooks and alerting resources, under the log analytics tab, I've included the standard detailed view, which brings in the SKU type and the retention in days. Underneath that, we have what solutions are actually enabled on the workspace. And as you can see on my VS Sandlot workspace, I have the Security Center Free Edition, Azure Sentinel, Azure Monitor for VMs, and a few other solutions enabled on that workspace. Another neat feature I included under the Log Analytics tab is if you select your workspace and you scroll down a little bit, you'll be presented with two separate tables, one for the tables and how much ingestion they've had, and then on the right hand side we have resources reporting to that workspace. Additionally, under the monitoring and security tab, we have any active alerts under Azure Monitor, and then we have a detailed view of the workbooks and alerting resources. We have our application insights. One thing I did want to add here was trying to show what resources were reporting to that App Insights workspace, but I couldn't get that working right now. And then finally, we have a security score by subscription and then security score by secure controls. Now, I don't have any of this enabled on my subscriptions, but you can look at the blog post and see the screen grabs that I have there. And then finally, we have tagged resources. This is a very, very handy thing to have. When you have proper tagging in your Azure environment, you can link that to monitoring solutions, which I've shown in a dynamic monitoring post on the tech community page that Microsoft hosts, as well as in cost management. And then again, here I can inventory what app has what resources in it very quickly and very easily. In this instance, I've included environment. A lot of companies that I've seen, they include like a prod or non-prod or QA environment. And so you can select that here. And then the application name itself, where you can select that here. And then that would change the summary count and then the detailed view down here. And then last but not least, we have untagged resources by subscription. If you're looking for a specific resource that's not tagged, you can use this parameter value and select it. and you can see this one workspace isn't tagged. If you can leave it as all, but just note that not all resources support tagging, so there may be a few resources in here that you can't tag and they'll just always be in here. But I included this because it's a good practice to tag your resources so that you can inventory them. You do cost management against that tag, and any other types of inventory related information that you'd want to get from that tag. You can download this workbook and import it into your Azure environment from my GitHub, which I've included in the link. To import and export gallery templates, you can click Edit. And then once in edit mode, you can come over here to the caret with the slash. And this is going to load the JSON for the workbook. And so this is how you would import the workbook to your environment. I will have this on my GitHub. You can simply come into a blank one and paste this whole thing in. In my case, I'll go ahead and hit cancel. But when you're doing it through the portal, you always want to use gallery template. The ARM template does not support being imported this way. However, if you did want to pipeline this, or do some sort of deployment through PowerShell, you could export this ARM template and deploy it that way. So try out the workbook. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I missed some resources, or if there's resources you want to add. Go ahead and submit a pull request. And thank you for watching.